If you have driven across one of the Innerbelt bridges over the Cuyahoga River, then you have driven by the site of a tragedy which occurred 118 years ago. It was a disaster which shook Cleveland to its core.
However, because of it, new safeguards were put into effect. Here's Leon Bibb with another story from his My Ohio series.
This is a story of more than 100 years ago, yet it is riveting to hear it. You will understand that shortly as I deliver this My Ohio story of a tale, unusual and bizarre, from our history. So let's go to a long ago Cleveland. A cold and rainy night had Cleveland's collar turned up as the city tried to ward off the fog which rolled in. Through the city's heart, the Cuyahoga River crooked toward Lake Erie. On this night, this river would claim lives of 17 people in a trolley car accident. November 16th, 1895, began a chain of unlikely events, spurring an incident on a dark bridge spanning the river.
The trolley plunged 100 feet down, hitting the piling down at the bottom, just narrowly missing a tugboat.
Historians Thomas Kubat and Calvin Ridebaum study Cleveland disasters. Standing near where the central viaduct once spanned the Cuyahoga River, long before the big shoulder bridges which replaced it, they reflect on an 1895 night when a trolley filled with passengers sped toward an opening in the viaduct.
Crashed through the gate. People on the train claim that Brennan came running out. People that survived came running out of his station screaming, "For God's sake, stop."
In those days, river-crossing bridges built on piers or stilts carried trolley, wagon, bicycle, and foot traffic. Some of Cleveland's viaduct piers still exist, standing as silent sentinels, linking the city to its past. Just as there is a lot of Cuyahoga River traffic today, in 1895, there was also a lot of Cuyahoga River traffic. That day in November of 1895, a boat was going through. So the old Central Viaduct had opened up the drawbridge to let the boat go underneath. The trolley driver did not see that the bridge was open, and the trolley plunged into the cold and murky waters of the Cuyahoga River. Not far from where we are right now. Today's Cleveland lift bridges have safety features as they open and close for both boat and automobile traffic. The Central Viaduct also had a safety feature, but in 1895, something was wrong.
Unfortunately, in the early part of November, that shorted out and the Cleveland Electric Railway had not got around to fixing it. Nor, in the inquest that came out, had they told any of the people working on the train that the failsafe wasn't working.
Viaduct worker Charles Brenner was to open the viaduct's draw when a riverboat passed below. He later testified he had raised a red lantern signaling the trolley on the open viaduct to wait. With the automatic trolley stop not working, the lantern signal was crucial. Apparently unaware, the trolley motorman kept driving, carrying the passengers through the dark toward the gulf in the now open bridge.
There was clothing, gear floating all around it, and disgustingly enough, they said they could hear gurgling and air bubbles, so there was probably people still alive drowning and struggling in there that they just couldn't get to.
The next day, 50,000 Clevelanders swarmed the area, gawking at the wreckage. 17 bodies were pulled from the Cuyahoga River. There was an official investigation as to what happened when the Cleveland Electric Railway trolley went off the Central Viaduct, not stopping for the open drawbridge of the viaduct. In the final analysis, it was called an unforeseeable accident. Officially, no one was ever blamed. Horror of all horrors, screamed Cleveland newspaper headlines. Years later, the viaducts over the river were torn down, replaced by higher and bigger bridges for the new automobile traffic. With today's new Innerbelt Bridge over the Cuyahoga, Cleveland looks to its future. Innerbelt spans carry traffic where an old Central Viaduct once stood, and from where death fell on a rainy Cleveland night in 1895. It is a story from My Ohio. The opening and closing draw part of the viaduct was removed in 1912, replaced with a higher level truss bridge, which eliminated need for the draw. The Lorraine-Carnegie Bridge opened in 1932, eliminating need for the viaduct, which was torn down in 1941. the old central viaduct existed where the current old Innerbelt Bridge now spans the river. With a story from our history and from My Ohio, I'm Leon Bibb.